welcome to the 19th episode of Season 3 of the Ubuntu UK podcast. It's Monday the 25th of October 2010, and in this episode we're going to hear interviews with Sue Black and Jerv Markham from OpenTech and chat about Mark Shuttleworth's keynote at UDS today. We will of course cover the latest news, events, a bit about Ubuntu, command line love, and go over your feedback. I'm Simon. It's a very full house tonight,
isn't it?
Who do we have? Tony.
Hello mate, you alright?
I'm very good.
Welcome back, it's nice to have you back.
Actually, I'm very well. My wife hears me saying I'm very good.
It's been a while, we missed you.
It's been a long time. Somebody missed me.
You have. There's a lot of love in the room right now.
We missed you bringing cake.
Yeah.
I've been busy.
Good, what have you been up to?
Work and life.
Hey, two good things apart from work.
But you were editing the podcast in the meantime.
Well, thank you. I did a bit of editing.
Get your hand in.
For a while.
I've done the Great South Run. I did that yesterday.
He doesn't like to talk about it much.
It's his charity work.
Nobody else is going to ask me. So
he doesn't like to tweet about it, apparently.
I tried to tweet as I was going around, and I sent tweets, and they didn't come through Twitter. I think Twitter was having a black spot moment. But yeah, no, I did it. I was really good. I've got my medal here. And thank you very much to all the people who sponsored me. It was a great outpouring from the Ubuntu UK podcast community, which was very, very touching. It's not too late, however, if you feel the need. You can go to justgiving.com/Tony Whitmore and donate. But yeah, it was great. Personal best time.
Excellent. Good to hear.
That's great.
Mark.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well. What have you been up to, mate?
What have I been up to? I've upgraded my home machines to Maverick with from Lucid with varying amounts of success.
Is this KDE Kubuntu or
well? On my
netbook, story,
on my netbook, I upgraded from Ubuntu Netbook Edition to later Ubuntu Netbook Edition, and then got fed up with Unity and installed KDE on there instead.
You got fed up with Unity?
Yes.
We should talk about that.
We should talk about that later.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, on my desktop, I upgraded Kubuntu to Kubuntu, and it crashed halfway through, and I managed to save it.
Well done.
Yes.
Sounds a successful day.
Yeah. That's Maverick for you. Popey, what have you up to, mate?
Hello. I've been doing a bit of Tomboy packaging, getting back into packaging because Sandy Armstrong's put out a few new versions of Tomboy, and I've been doing a bit of that, keeping the PPAs up to date, and playing Minecraft, which I said to myself I wouldn't buy it because everyone tells me it's like crack and you just can't get off it.
And you're proving the point.
They're completely right. I sat there yesterday with my son sat on my desk with my arms around him, holding onto the keyboard and the mouse, and my daughter sat on the table as well, and they were telling me which zombies to chase after. And
that's straight out of the Good Parenting Guide.
Oh, totally.
You got it bad.
I was teaching them how to, allocate resources or something.
Strategy.
Isn't it true the Linux Outlaws guys have a server and it says blame Popey?
Yes, it does. Yeah. You can only see it from very high up, so I swam out to the bit where it says blame Popey and built a great big stack of sand or something, and then stood on the top of it and took a nice screenshot of it. It's very sad, but yes, props to the amount of coal that Fab dug in order to light that up.
He must really like winding you up.
Yeah,
No.
I think he does, yes.
And finally, Laura.
I've just been boring people with inferential statistics.
Yep.
We
Probably
noticed.
all we need to say. Shall we get on with the show?
Yeah, it doesn't sound very fun-packed, but yeah.
Well, you're back.
There it is.
We've got a couple of interviews now that I recorded at OpenTech about a month ago. The first one is with Sue Black, who is a computer science lecturer, but also is involved with the Save Bletchley Park campaign. So we talked a little bit about that. And the second one is with Jerv Markham from the Mozilla Foundation, talking about Mozilla Drumbeat and Mozilla Firefox version 4 and a few other bits and bobs. As ever, these are recorded on location, so there's a bit of background noise and a bit of echo. We always choose the most salubrious places to record that we can. But yeah, enjoy the interviews. I'm here at OpenTech with Sue Black. Now, you're here talking about Bletchley Park, is that right?
Yes, that's right. I've been talking about, the title of the talk was Can Twitter Save Bletchley Park this morning. Okay,
and why is it important to save Bletchley Park? What's important about it?
Well, it's the birthplace of the computer. Colossus, the world's first programmable computer, was invented there. And during the Second World War. And also it's the place where the code breakers worked during the Second World War. The work that they did saved millions of lives. I think Eisenhower said it shortened the war by 2 years, so saving about 11 million lives. So it's a place of fundamental importance.
And many people will know the name Alan Turing as somebody who worked there, but of course there were thousands of people there.
Yeah. So most people know Alan Turing, but there were lots of code breakers there, and I think it was about 10,000 people that worked there altogether. And one thing that most people don't know is that they were all, well, mainly quite young, so from kind of 16 upwards. I think Alan Turing was about 27 or 28 when he went here, so he was probably one of the older people there.
And the other surprising thing you talked about in your talk was that how many of them were women?
Yeah, well, I was amazed when I found that out. I was there having a look around and ended up chatting to John Harper, who was rebuilding the bomb machine there. And when telling him that I was there representing the BCS Women group that I set up, he said, "Oh, did you know that more than half the people that worked here were women?" And no, I was really surprised. I kind of had this idea of middle-aged blokes sitting around smoking pipes in tweed jackets, so it's not what I expected.
So it sounds like it was younger women sitting around with tweed pipes and tweed jackets and smoking pipes, maybe. So Bletchley Park's in need of saving. So why is that?
Yes, it is. I mean, I think because everything had to be kept secret for such a long time, it's not really been in our consciousness. I've been campaigning for a couple of years now, and I think with the help of a lot of people with the geek community, we're really raising the profile of Bletchley Park. But there's been not very much government funding. There's been some investment now over the last 2 years, but they still do need lots of money. You know, they need millions, unfortunately, to make sure that everything there is preserved, into the future.
You showed us some pictures of some of the huts, and they're a pretty sorry state, really. Is it just the level of investment that's let them get that way?
Yes, it is really. I mean, they've been running on a shoestring for years and years and years. And even with the amount of money that's been put in recently, that's not enough to sort everything out. You know, the main income that they have is gate receipts, so people going to visit. So I do encourage everybody to visit there. It's only £10 for an annual pass. So, very good value for money. But, yeah, they're operating on a shoestring still, even with the funding they've got.
So for those who don't know, whereabouts in the country is it?
It's in Bletchley.
Okay, whereabouts is Bletchley?
Right. Which is near Milton Keynes. If you're in London or the South East, you can get a train from Euston, which is, I think, 36 minutes, fast train from Euston.
Okay, so it's relatively easy to get to if you're in the south of England, basically.
Yeah. And also, I mean, there's good train service from Birmingham, but I've got the train from Birmingham before.
Okay, so how are you trying to help out Bletchley Park? You're saying the title of your talk was, Can Twitter Save Bletchley Park? What's Twitter got to do with it?
Well, I started off using traditional media, so, I got on the BBC News and the Today programme, and that really helped. But more recently, I've been using social media, and particularly Twitter, to try and raise awareness. I went up with some kind of uber social media guru people, some guys called Documentally and Sizemore, and Jemima Knight from the BBC a couple of years ago, and they really sort of helped kickstart the whole social media and Bletchley Park thing going, and that was wonderful. That really got it going, and then since then I've just been trying to do different things really to keep Bletchley Park in the news, or keep people aware of it, and build up a community of mainly geeks, but also people that just care about our history, to try and save it, basically. So I've done things like tweeting Stephen Fry, who was kind enough to tweet about Bletchley Park last year, and instead of getting 50 hits on my blog, that day I got 8,000 hits on my blog after he tweeted it, so it was quite funny. But, really great to get people such as that involved.
And is it translating into results? Are they actually benefiting from your campaign, or is there still a little way to go yet?
Well, obviously, I'd like to think that there's the benefits. I mean, obviously, it's not just me. There's lots of people doing lots of different things. But since I started campaigning in 2008, the profile has gone up a lot, and there's now a community of geeks out there who care deeply about Bletchley Park. And I think the profile's been raised, money's come in. There's been money from Heritage Lottery Fund, from English Heritage, and last March there was $250,000 from the government. So, things are happening, but we need more.
And I think you said Twitter users managed to raise enough funds for you to go to a conference with sort of more mainstream museums and be able to talk about Bletchley Park and its needs. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I decided that it would be a good idea to get Bletchley Park involved with the international museum community, because I think that's quite important for them and for other museums to know what they're up to. So I wrote a paper with Kelsey Griffin, who's Director of Operations at Bletchley Park, and Professor Jonathan Bowen, who's an online museum expert, about the history of Bletchley Park, what they were doing, what I'd done, and submitted it to Museums on the Web last year. The paper got accepted, and then I realised that we didn't have any money to go.
Problem.
Yes, exactly. So I was chatting to people on Twitter about it, saying, why didn't I think about this before? Don't. And someone said, well, why don't you set up a Just Giving page? And, I reckon the Twitter community will help you, the Bletchley Park fans. So after a bit of persuasion, I did. And I think in the 2 weeks before Christmas last year, we raised nearly £2,500, which was enough for me and Kelsey to go there. So, I really couldn't believe that. Fantastic. What a great community of people.
And if they can do that to send you to a conference, which would obviously benefit Bletchley Park, but there's a lot of potential there, obviously, for raising money in a perhaps more direct way for Bletchley as well.
Oh, yes, definitely. There really is a great community, and I really, everywhere I go, meeting people in that community, feel a lot of love and support for Bletchley Park. People really do care.
And you've had the privilege of meeting some of the people who worked there during the war, of which I guess there are fewer and fewer these days.
That's right. The veterans are just amazing people. I think everyone that I've met has been over 80, maybe over 85. But they, apart from being kind of really cool people who did this great thing for us such a long time ago, they're also great fun. They come out with these really funny stories about stealing the vicar's bicycle to get to a dance, and sunbathing topless on the roof, and RAF pilots flying low over the building to try and get a look. They're amazing people, and and they broke codes too.
Yeah, it does sound like when you got such a huge number of young people together under a very pressurised circumstance, it could have been a great atmosphere to get involved in. Do you still get a sense of that when you go around it today, do you think?
Definitely. If you go up there today, I think most of the tour guides that take you around are actual veterans. So 75% of the staff there are volunteers, and quite a few of those are veterans. So if you do go up there, it's quite likely that you will meet a veteran, someone that you can actually ask questions about what was it like here. Okay,
and the main question is, where can people find out more about your campaign?
Well, so my campaign blog is savingbletchleypark.org. My homepage is www.sueblack.co.uk. Bletchley Park website is www.bletchleypark.org.uk.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you, and I'm Dr. Black on Twitter.
We'll put that in as well. I'm here at Open Tech with Jervis Markham from Mozilla Foundation. How are you doing?
Hi, good, thanks, yeah.
Good. And you were here talking about Drumbeat, is that right?
That's right, yeah. Drumbeat is the Mozilla Foundation's latest initiative based on the idea that Mozilla has always been about preserving and protecting the openness of the web. And we did that with Firefox, which has been an enormous success. And Internet Explorer has gone from 98% market share, where one company effectively had control of the web, to a much more open browser market where competition among browser makers is driving innovation in a collaborative way, using standards like HTML5 and CSS3, which are developed in the open. And that is a real improvement in the state of things there. But monopoly by a single browser is not the only threat to the web. And so Drumbeat is our initiative to try and take the best things about the web, the openness things, the transparency, the decentralization, the participatory nature of the web, and mash them up with other ideas to prove to people that open is the future of the web, is the way the web should be. Because you can imagine different futures for the web. You can imagine a more closed, more broadcast style, less participatory, less open future for the web. And that's the way some companies want to take it. Perhaps where you have to be a member of one particular site for a whole bunch of other sites to work. And you can imagine an open future for the web. And Drumbeat is about doing things that drive the web more in the open direction.
Okay, so by sites where you have to be a member, you're talking about things like Google, perhaps, where you get added benefits if you're signed up for a Google account, or Facebook or something like that?
Well, something like Facebook Connect would be an example of this, right? If you come to a website and you can only log into it using Facebook Connect, then that means that you have to be a member of Facebook to use that site. And if that becomes common, then Facebook starts to become this centralized point of the web where you have to have an account in order for large bits of the web to work for you. And it's not only Facebook who are trying to do this. And there are advantages to consumers in federated identity, but if it's done in a way that allows you with multiple identity providers, then you don't have this one company getting the centralized position, which I think is more of a risk to the decentralized nature of the web.
So why is it called Drumbeat? What were you trying to capture in that name?
Well, we called it Drumbeat because basically we are kind of beating the drum to try and rally people. Drumbeat is a rallying point for people who want to do things that make the web a better place and demonstrate that open is better. And so Drumbeat is like, if you like, a home for such projects. We have 200, 300 already on the site, and there are 2 or 3 which are I guess we call flagship ones, which serve to demonstrate what Drumbeat is all about. There's a project called Universal Subtitles, which is aiming to be Wikipedia for subtitles, basically. They want it so that all of the online video can be subtitled for people who are hard of hearing and then translated for people who don't understand the language the video is in. At the moment, 24 hours of video is being uploaded to YouTube every minute, 24 hours every minute, and all of that is inaccessible to the deaf and inaccessible to people who don't understand the language in which the video is made. And so they've got a web client which uses OpenVideo, HTML5, JavaScript to allow people to dynamically subtitle videos in a beautifully smooth process. I did a blog post recently commending them on their brilliant usability for that client, and it's still only in beta. And hopefully, as time goes on, we'll see more and more popular videos being subtitled and they can be accessible to more people. So that's one example.
So this isn't something that the Mozilla Foundation have developed themselves. This is something that just a person on the internet sat down and thought, this would be a cool thing to do.
Yes, that's right. In this particular case, it's a project of the Participatory Culture Foundation. But yes, Drumbeat projects are people on the internet having ideas and thinking, actually, this makes the web better. I'm going to put it on the Drumbeat site. And other people come along and go, hey, that's cool. I support that. I like that. I want to help. So everyone gets together and you can help out with projects that fire your imagination. We're also doing meetups locally in lots of different cities. There's been a bunch happening already, and there's a big festival in Barcelona in November where everybody's going to get together and we can celebrate some of the cool things that we're doing to keep the web open.
Cool. So what other headline projects have you got on Drumbeat at the moment?
And Drumbeat, another example would be a thing called Web Made Movies. Now, this is basically a hacking lab for open video and filmmakers. And there's a really cool demo which you can see if you go to the Drumbeat site in the Web Made Movies area, where an open video plays and that video is annotated in such a way that it pulls in data from all sorts of other bits of the web at the same time to illustrate and add value to that video. So the subtitles, yes, but also when different people appear, you get their Twitter feeds and their Flickr feeds. When different locations appear in the video, you get maps of their locations. When different topics come up, you get the Wikipedia article about that, and that all appears in the page as you play. And it's really interactive, augmented video. And this sort of thing is not possible when your video is stuck in a flash box, which you can't overlay and you can't interact with, and you can't control from the rest of the web page. Now videos become a first-class citizen on the web. This sort of thing is possible. So that's another Drumbeat project. These are some of the bigger ones, but there are plenty of smaller ones as well, doing little things and big things to show that open is the way forward.
So are these all HTML5e, video, multimedia, Web 2.0 type projects? Or is there something inherent in making use of some of the new technologies to be a Drumbeat project?
Well, I think some of the new technologies are sort of at the core of what makes the web a compelling platform, and because they were developed in the open, they demonstrate how open is a better way for the web to go. So I think you will find a bias towards projects which use those sort of technologies, but the subject, if you like, doesn't have to be those technologies, right? The subject of Web Made Movies is movies, film, telling story through film, the filmmaker's art that's been going on ever since the movie camera was invented. But we're just taking that and mashing it up with some open web goodness to produce something that is better than the sum of the parts. And I think if there's a common thread that runs through Drumbeat, it's that it's some cool idea mashed up with open webbiness to produce something that's even better and demonstrates why the web can be cool when it's open.
Okay, so where can people find out more about Drumbeat?
Drumbeat.org is the website, and you'll see the major feature projects on there, and you can search all your 280 other ones. And if there's something there that takes your fancy and you want to get involved, then go right ahead.
Or some new idea, presumably.
Absolutely. We're always looking for new projects. If you have a project already that is in this space that you think is a project that makes the web better and you want to put it on Drumbeat, we can get volunteers and bring people in and showcase your project. If your project starts to get traction, we will shout about it, we will publicise it, and we will even fund projects that really start to get going. There is funding available for projects. So if you're doing something like this, come and join us and be part of the community.
Excellent. And the other thing you've got going on at the moment is Firefox 4, of course, which I think is in like beta 5 or something like that.
Yes, that's right. That's right. We're having a fairly extended beta cycle for Firefox, but every new one comes with extra cool stuff, which is really, really exciting. When the final thing comes out, you can expect stuff like Open Video in the WebM format, which is what the push in Open Video is now behind. Improvements in HTML5 and CSS3, and some awesome JavaScript performance improvements. We have got some people doing incredibly scary things that I don't understand with the innards of processors to get every last ounce of performance out of your processor when it comes to running complex web applications. There's Weave Sync, which is moving your bookmarks, your history, your passwords, all of your settings between copies of Firefox, but importantly in a way which respects your privacy. All this stuff is encrypted on your computer, and all Mozilla has is a big encrypted blob of data. So we couldn't give away any of your data to anyone else, even if we were subpoenaed or even if a court told us to. And that's, I think, is really important to demonstrate that you can build web services which also are privacy respecting. And also more minimalist Chrome, so hopefully more of your web browsing experience will be about the web page and less about the web browser. So there's a whole bunch of cool stuff coming up in Firefox 4. I couldn't possibly list it all if you gave me 10 minutes just to talk about that.
Well, you mentioned JavaScript for a minute there. Has there been a real pressure to improve the JavaScript performance because of things like Chrome or Chromium coming out of Google?
I think that JavaScript is an area where it's really clear how the collaboration between projects and the open source nature of projects has led to vast strides being made in a short amount of time. We've just made some really big changes to our core JavaScript engine, but some of those changes are us taking code from the V8 project and from other JavaScript engines around the place, and we're taking the best ideas and we're mashing them up with the incredibly smart brains of our people, including the guy who invented JavaScript, and our performance is improving too. And then Microsoft come along and their performance has to be better, and so on. And there's been this wonderful fun spirit of competition among web browsers to who can get the best out of JavaScript performance. And of course it's never one number, right? There's this benchmark and that benchmark, and some benchmarks don't test what you think they're testing, and so on and so forth. And some are better and some are worse. But I think the clear thing is, if you look at compared to say 12 months ago, or the last major release of the browsers, JavaScript performance has really come on, and I'm really excited to see what people are going to be doing with that in terms of building more complicated, more interesting, cooler web applications.
I guess it's that sort of competition that we wouldn't have got if IE was 98% of the browser market still.
Exactly.
Which brings us back to where we started. Well, that's an ideal place to stop. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you.
And now for some news.
Linux Mint has released their version 10 release candidate. Highlights of the release include a new welcome screen with the option to install extra codecs, an enhanced system menu, and improvements to the software management interface. A new welcome screen. That's the big feature, is it?
Well, there's a group that wanted to make one for Ubuntu as well, called the Ubuntu Tour, which is like like the splash thing that you got on Windows 95 and 2000 and XP that everyone closed and said skip this in future.
Yeah.
They're making one of those.
Oh, cool. Azar's got a skip this in future button as well.
I jolly well hope so. Yeah.
Japanese company Intech Systems Institute reports that the number of unallocated IPv4 addresses has dropped below 200 million. The company's exhaustion countdown widget suggests that we will run out of IPv4 addresses in under a year.
Panic! Oh my God!
What's going to happen?
Well, everybody's already got one. We'll carry on, so that's all right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And those companies, like the big American corporations who swept up huge, gargantuan amounts of them, are fine.
Like Apple, who got a Class A or something like that.
Yeah, and Xerox and Unisys and all these kind of big companies. Yeah, they're all right.
Yeah, 16 million addresses each or something.
And our house is alright, because we have our own IP addresses inside them.
IPv6 or...
IPv4.
Oh.
Yeah, we just got one IP address.
I know we
that's fine.
do. It's just when I first read it, and doesn't matter.
I'm sure it was funny in your head.
It was funny in my head.
And you're back in the room.
I think a lot of the new IP address allocation is going into developing countries who are obviously seeing a huge increase in allocations. So it's
And
likely.
also the mobile wireless space.
Yep, I guess, yeah.
So why don't they start them off from V6 rather than V4, the developing countries? Just thought.
Infrastructure not there, software doesn't work with V6, people running old versions of software that doesn't understand. Yeah, it's got a dialog box and the only thing you can put in is a dotted quad of numbers.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to put an IPv6 address.
It's not generally the OS layer, it's embedded devices, things with firmware in that only expect dotted notation, and apps that are hard-coded for that sort of IPv4 notation.
Microsoft have released a video entitled A Few Perspectives on OpenOffice.org, which features quotes from Microsoft's own case studies of OpenOffice deployments presented by actors. The video discourages the use of OpenOffice as an alternative to Microsoft Office, citing reasons such as inaccurate file conversions and lack of support for spreadsheet macros.
They're not wrong.
That's right, isn't it?
It's sort of the way they present it, really, that makes it
Yeah.
because they present it like it's OpenOffice's fault that a company had a deployment of OpenOffice where they needed Excel spreadsheet macros to work.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the acting in the video is so bad.
It's corporate video.
But when you've got the amount of money and resources Microsoft has, surely you'd hire the best actors you can if you really want to kill the competition.
Yeah, but clearly you don't need to, because everyone's talking about this video and everyone's seen it. And so the message has got across that Microsoft are poo-pooing OpenOffice and open source in general. So they don't
Not
need
really
to.
news, is it, though?
Who would you cast in a video casting aspersions on OpenOffice.org from Hollywood?
I wasn't saying from Hollywood, I just meant someone who
Chuck
could act.
Norris.
Someone who didn't talk like this and probably knew what a macro was.
So not William Shatner then.
Yes.
Apple has announced that Java for Mac OS X is deprecated and that Java applications will not be allowed in the newly unveiled Mac App Store. Steve Jobs stated the decision was made due to Java being produced by Oracle, resulting in differing release schedules from those of OS X. James Gosling, founder of Java, responded to the blog post stating that Jobs' claim simply isn't true. Simon Phipps, who oversaw the open sourcing of Java while working for Sun, suggested that the decision may push Java developers towards Ubuntu.
Apple are really annoying some big companies at the moment, aren't they? No Flash, no Java. What's left? Mono?
How many people would that annoy?
C.
Let's push all the Mono developers towards Ubuntu.
That would annoy Joe Shields, Ian Lane, and not many other people.
Ian Lane.
Miguel de Casa. Maybe.
Yeah. Web developer Eric Butler has created a Firefox extension that allows users to steal session cookies from peers on open Wi-Fi networks. Once cookies have been acquired, users can then log into other people's accounts on sites such as Google and Facebook with a single click. Butler stated that he created the extension to highlight large websites ignoring their responsibility to protect users' data and encourage users to demand a more secure web.
Have you tried it?
No, it's a bit scary.
It's a bit scary. You have to do some fiddling with your wireless card to make it sort of accept anything it hears.
Oh, promiscuous.
Promiscuous mode. Yeah, but basically it does let you do what it says on an open network. What it said. But I mean, it's not like that wasn't possible anyway. It just makes it very easy.
Super.
Yeah.
Well done.
Are you a fan of that?
I'm all for it. It's the only
Right.
way to get people to take it seriously.
Yeah, I suppose it's fair.
The Etherpad Foundation have released version 1.1 of their web-based collaborative text editor. This release is the first developed by the Foundation since Google's open sourcing of the code last December. As well as replacing all non-free elements of the system with free software alternatives, the release supports a raft of new features, including support for files, images, and easy rebranding.
It's worth noting you're actually reading that from an Etherpad document.
So are we going to rebrand our Etherpad?
Our
private
private one that nobody can get to. Yeah.
We also have a
worth
public one that
I
people
just-
can leave ideas on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
That's... Oh, I don't know what the address is.
pad.ubuntu-uk.org.
Yeah, it's all there.
Thank you.
That's the end of the news.
And now for some command line love.
Oh, I've missed those tones.
Greg Thompson's sent in an interesting one to basically give you colour man pages.
Oh,
It relies on the Most Pager utility. We'll not go through how to do it, but essentially colour man pages. Has anybody tried it?
I have.
Yeah, look at
Opie's
that.
showing me it. And the man pages.
Is it
That's
just-
very cool.
Random words coloured.
No, it's
Not
like
random.
It looks so from here.
paths and commands and things like that are coloured
Yeah,
to stand out.
parameters and stuff. So like the command itself and all the headings are all red for me, and all the parameters are green and everything else is white. So it's kind of a bit poke your eyes out bright, I'm sure.
Do you know if you can change the colours?
I would expect so.
Okay.
I can't imagine there's a command line utility that you can't configure in Linux. And most, if I look at the man page for most, that would it's a
No
colour.
recursive now.
Yeah.
Oh golly.
And you can use it, aside from man pages, you can just use it as a pager instead of something like less.
I wonder if it supports sort of themes, so you could have like, a bright theme, pink theme, green
Brown theme.
monochrome theme.
Aubergine theme.
You're going a bit far now, aren't you?
Yeah. We'll put the full details of how to implement that on the website. Have a look. Today's the first day of the Ubuntu Developer Summit for Natty Narwhal. The next
1104. Yeah.
1104, the next, or what will become 1104, the next release of Ubuntu. And as ever, it has started with a keynote from Mark Shuttleworth. The big sort of address that sets up the tone for the rest of the week, really.
Mm.
And he's had a few interesting things to say in this keynote. At one point, this is the first one that actually streamed live on the web at the time he was giving it, I think.
Yeah, first time I've seen it live.
Yeah, and he was giving out ice cream to people and making them eat it and things. It sounded more like a game show than a keynote address, but I'm sure there was a good reason to it. Unfortunately, my stream dropped just as I was looking at that point, so I never got to find out why. One minute he was giving people ice cream tubs, and the next minute it was on about software. Who knows? But a few other things have come up, though. One of the interesting things is the idea of using Unity as the default desktop environment in 1104, which has caused a little bit of a kerfuffle on the internet.
More than moving buttons to the left, do you think?
No less, I think. I don't think there's been as
Nothing
much.
could.
Nothing
Yeah,
could reach the
nothing
heights of
quite
that.
Well,
that.
it is the first day.
This
It's
is
only
true.
been released a few hours.
News hasn't been out there quite long enough.
Hasn't
for it
gone right around the world yet.
Yeah, to fester and blow up.
Yeah. So what's the big deal?
So what's Unity?
Okay. Yes,
Ooh,
good
good
point.
one.
Now, Mark, you've actually used Unity, haven't
I
you?
have.
Therefore, you know what it is.
Therefore, you're our local expert.
I've used it as well. It's
Oh,
a
I'm
little
Simon,
bit-
is
Okay.
Don't to leave you out.
Well, basically, up until now, up until Maverick, we've had the Ubuntu Netbook Edition interface, which is all like a big full screen launcher thing, which is designed for small screens.
And is it not also designed for touchscreens as well?
Sort of. I mean, it looks like it's designed for touchscreens. I don't think it necessarily. I don't think they ever necessarily pushed it as being designed for touchscreens, did
We
they? But
certainly
it-
tried it on the Juggler, didn't we?
I only
Oh, yeah,
tried the ordinary desktop on the Juggler, and I wished I'd put Unity on
No.
because I thought that looked
Well-
more like it would.
before, was it actually called Unity when it was just plain
no,
old?
when it was Netbook Remix, which was in 10.04.
Yes.
It was Netbook Remix, and
So
now
you can
it's
run
Netbook Edition.
that on the Juggler, not
Yeah,
Unity.
that's what we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Unity is the interface that the Ubuntu Netbook Edition has.
Yes.
Has now,
Yes.
which
Has
is
now.
slightly different and slightly more flashy, and also has a dock down the
the
left-hand
right-hand
side,
yeah.
which is a big problem when you have a screen which is 1024 pixels wide and you're trying to use the web,
Yep.
because it takes up a vital amount of space and means that you then have to scroll left and right on more or less every web page.
Does it not hide the thing?
No,
the dock on
no,
there?
there's no way of hiding it. Not at the moment, anyway.
Well, this is first release.
There are bugs out there to get them to fix that, and that's my main disagreement with it at the moment, to be honest.
What, the screen real estate that horizontally it takes
Yeah.
up? Now, you see, the thing is, it's a game, isn't it? Because on a netbook, you have a very low resolution screen, and actually it's vertically, obviously, lower resolution than it is horizontally. And if you had that same size dock along the bottom of the screen, you'd be constantly scrolling up and down, which, okay, you've got a mouse wheel, so it's not so much of a problem.
It was fine without the dock. I
So-
liked it without the dock.
So
Yeah.
what's the dock give you?
It means that you've always got the launchers there, I
Yeah.
So you
suppose.
can quickly
Yeah, it
get
does.
to your applications. So
Yeah.
I have the same arrangement on when I use OS 10.
Uh-huh.
I have the dock, which on most OS 10 machines is along the bottom of the screen. I have it down the left-hand side, so it looks like,
Popey points at screen.
yes, this, showing Laura my OS
Yes.
10 laptop.
Oh, I see.
So it looks like that, but it has kind of the ability to move the icons around and personalize it
So
for yourself.
is it like me putting shortcuts on the panel at the top? Kinda
Kind of, but bigger.
bigger.
bigger and more customizable and pretty.
Because on a Mac, when it's across the bottom, isn't that what kind of flashes upwards? Like
can do.
expands when you hover over it.
Yeah, it can do.
But
it doesn't have to.
Unity's one also does similar things to the Mac, like it stores all of the windows, if you will, inside the icon for the application, and it puts a little arrow on it when it's running and things like that.
Right. So you always have all the icons there, whether they're running or not. But if they are running, you get a little indicator of some kind to say there's actually an application behind this button. Or there might be multiple windows behind that button. You might have 10 Firefox windows, and there's just one icon. And when you click it, you get the option of which one you want to open and switch to it.
Presumably it's configurable. You can choose which applications you want to have on your dock and which ones you don't.
Yeah, you can drag things in and out.
Right.
There's a nice video from one of the design guys that's been shown around where he actually demos how you drag icons up and down. It's quite nice in the way that they've designed it, that, you know, as you move your mouse, it behaves differently, and behaves differently when you drag an icon away from the dock. It behaves slightly differently if you drag it just a little way away, and then if you drag it further away. And they've got, when you want to delete something, you drag an icon away and you get a little circle with an X in the corner, much like you would on a mobile phone type of interface. A very touchy kind of interface.
So what are the key features of Unity, aside from the dock, that are different from a desktop? Because I've not got a netbook, so I've only ever really just seen it over people's shoulders.
Is it full screen everything all the time?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the main thing, is you open an app and it's bam, full screen. Well, full screen aside from the toolbar down the left and the menu across the top.
It's getting smaller screen all the time.
Yeah.
But it's definitely designed for the small screen, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how on earth is that going to run on a big 21-inch, 23-inch screen? I mean...
Well, they're talking about doing modifications to it so that you can have like windows floating about and overlapping each other and things like that. But other than that, it will end up looking a lot like OS X, basically, with a dock on the side, as far as I can see.
So if they make Windows movable and overlappy, doesn't that make it like the Ubuntu desktop rather than like Unity? Isn't that kind of a key
Yeah,
part
but then
of
it's
Unity?
still...
You've got like multiple schools of thought. Some people prefer the tiling window manager, which is effectively what Unity is a tiling window manager with one window open all the time. Whereas, you know, with traditional tiling window managers, you might split the screen in half and have two things on the screen. But with non-tiling window managers like Metacity and Compass, where you can drag stuff all over the place, I guess you're going to get a blend of the two. Maybe when you start an app, it goes full screen, and then if you drag it somewhere, it'll shrink down a bit. But
yeah, you've got to wonder whether they would look to do the sort of things that they've got in Windows 7, where applications will automatically resize and snap to sort of half the screen or whatever.
You mean in KDE?
Oh, maybe.
you can do it with Compass as well. Yeah.
Oh, right,
Other window managers are available.
It was good when we moved to Windows 95 from Windows 3.1, and the way that the flexibility of being able to move windows around was nice.
That was a long time ago.
It was.
We're looking at maybe redoing that again.
I'm trying to get a picture of what this big change is.
Well, Mark Shuttleworth described it in an interview with Ars Technica, this idea of using Unity as the most significant change ever for Ubuntu. But he also acknowledges that it's a risky step and that there's a lot of work.
Significantly positive or negative?
Yeah. Well, the second I was sat in the Hash Ubuntu -UDS IRC channel, which mostly the people in there were Ubuntu users, pretty much, and developers, and people who are at the conference, and obviously people remote participating. And we were all watching the video, and the second Mark said, "And Unity will be the default in 11.04 for new users," a few people just went, "No, say it isn't so." And then Twitter went a bit bonkers for a minute with people saying, "Oh my God, not really? Really?" So
it comes back to what we did with the buttons on the left. It would be nice to understand their thinking behind why the change. Because personally, I've used Unity on my daughter's netbook. I don't like it. I really don't like it.
I don't think I'd mind it as much on a big screen, but I don't like the fact that it doesn't let you customise the dock down the side.
Now, this presumably is very early stages of this idea. Mark's only just made the announcement. You can guarantee it's going to be something that will be talked about a lot through the week of UDS. But obviously the why is this being done question occurred to Alan as well, because you put something on...
askubuntu.com. And one of the replies, I basically asked the question, why is Ubuntu 11.04 switching to Unity? Because the blog post says what's happening from John O'Bacon's blog post, but it doesn't say why. So I asked the question, why? And actually, someone's replied since I posted it about an hour or two ago, saying there's an article at Ars Technica that may shed some light, and I'm quoting now. I also asked Shuttleworth why Canonical's building its own shell rather than customizing the GNOME shell. He says that Canonical made an effort to participate in the GNOME shell design process and found that Ubuntu's vision for the future development for the future desktop interfaces was fundamentally different from that of upstream GNOME shell developers.
That's it's quite strong, I guess, in a way.
Well,
Fair enough.
It's not unreasonable to think that two different organisations might have a different opinion on the way desktop computing goes.
But Ubuntu and GNOME have always sort of worked reasonably closely together. They've certainly been very tightly integrated. Releases of GNOME synchronising with the Ubuntu release cycle, for example. I wonder if there's a bit of a divergence going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it goes with the original idea of Ubuntu not maintaining huge patch sets out of tree, but developing things, fixing bugs, and feeding it back upstream. If they're going to be maintaining Unity or independently,
They are upstream.
Well, they are the upstream for
Yeah.
it, and it becomes a hell of a lot more work.
Of course, if they do Unity fairly well, it would quite easily go onto any of the tablets that are out in the market.
Yeah, there's also a nice video from Jerry Carr showing off Unity on a Dell tablety.
I saw
thing.
that. It does look very nice.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it even with his fat fingers. He's managing to. That was his phrase.
I was going to say otherwise, part.
Yeah, we love you, Jerry. But yeah, showing how you drag icons in and out and start applications and stuff.
I think most of us could probably accept that that's why they're doing what they're doing. But what I think I'd like to see is an ability to switch between different desktop managers.
Well, at the moment you
It
can.
said default, didn't it?
At the moment you can. Well, see, the thing is, the key phrase Mark said was Unity will be the default desktop for new users in 11.04. Now, that new users means if you're already using Ubuntu and you upgrade, then you shouldn't lose the desktop that you've already got, which is GNOME 2.x.
But then I'd want the option to not use Unity on a new install. As an old
Well, yeah. I mean,
Sure, it's possible.
Well, at the moment, it's a login time option. So
Old
when you
Ubuntu.
get the log-on screen, you choose Session, GNOME, or Unity.
Yeah.
And that there's no reason. Well, one of the developers actually commented when I said that. He said, "I see no reason why that would change."
So it's not all doom and gloom.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
I
I'm
don't think it's
curious.
doom and gloom at all.
There are a lot of people who are very excited about it, just
Yeah.
as there are a similar number of people who are, this is the worst thing that Ubuntu could ever
I'm
do.
leaving
leaving
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. Shuttleworth's law kicks in and somebody's off before too long. But it's interesting what you were saying before, Alan, about the idea of it coming from a speech rather than something that came from the sort of the core of UDS discussions itself. This is obviously something that there's a vision for, and
it's already been decided.
And it's been decided, so it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with the buttons, really. That was announced. Ubuntu's new look was announced.
And I know some people have a big problem with the fact that because Canonical drive this and obviously have internal discussions and they have a design team that talk internally and don't necessarily talk to the community, there are decisions that are made before the community ever gets its hands on anything.
Know your place.
Yeah.
I've said this before.
Yeah.
It's business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mark's obviously got a vision, and just as people like Steve Jobs have got a vision for Apple and where they're taking their products, there's the influence of the individual.
You have to have a vision, otherwise everyone's pulling in different directions. Nobody really knows what they're aiming for, and you just end up with a bucket of mess.
Hang on, I said Debian. Laura said bucket of mess.
Unfortunately, very closely.
I can't edit that out. Sorry.
So
sorry, go on.
As I said, the only problem I've ever had with what little exposure I've had to Unity is I think once I've got a window open, I've struggled a little bit to know what else was open and switching between it. But aside from that, it always struck me as being nice and simple.
One thing that does bother me a bit, well, one of the things that bothers me a bit about Unity that I really liked in the old netbook interface was that you had everything, you had a little icon of all the windows you had open, like a little tab across the top.
Yeah.
But now it's all hidden in the dock. And you've got little arrows, and you don't necessarily know what those arrows mean. Whether they mean it wants you to look at it, or whether it means you've got a window running, or something like that.
I think that's a very short learning curve. I didn't use OS X before about a year ago, and it didn't take long for me to realise that the little white dot next to an icon means there's one of them running. And I think, yes, it's something people would have to learn. It's a new desktop paradigm or whatever you want to call it. But well, it's not new, is it? Because
It's already there, yeah.
OS 10 has had it for years. So
Yeah, okay.
I just think,
one of
it
those
will
things
be
you've got to
one of
learn,
those
yeah.
things to learn.
Yeah.
Just like everything else you have to learn when you switch.
But I think that's it. It's just a new desktop paradigm. It's like using an iPod. You can switch between, like, if you've got lots of menus and things, you just shuffle down layers of menus. But it's always full screen, isn't it? It is just different, and more people are going to netbooks.
The question is it actually any more intuitive?
That's one, yeah.
That's what will help people feel very, very at ease with it. I mean, the iPod, the idea of the iPod, once you have got the idea that you run your finger across it and the menu swishes to one side, it's very easy. And I've seen a 2-year-old use the iPhone or the iPod interface because they can just poke at it with their finger and it'll work. Whereas other interfaces aren't as easy to pick up. So if it is that easy...
Right-clicking, for example. That's just the most insane thing ever, is right-clicking, and which is why Apple's haven't had a second mouse button for years, ever, really.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I have is, what does this mean for GNOME? Because if we're not going to be shipping GNOME Shell in the default, and we're not going to be shipping the standard Nautilus style desktop with a panel top and bottom,
but we'll still be shipping all the other bits and bobs of GNOME, won't we? All the tools and the utilities and gadgets that come with GNOME.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying... we always pick and choose bits of GNOME. We don't actually ship all of GNOME at the moment.
No.
Because, for example, the default browser for GNOME, as far as I understood, was Epiphany.
Yeah.
Whereas we ship Firefox.
Yes.
And whilst we do ship the email client, Evolution, and Tomboy, the Notes app, there are other bits and bobs that we don't.
And the calculator.
Akiga. Akiga is the default VoIP client.
Gedit.
We take Gedit. But so it's not, okay, the problem is that we're... potentially getting rid of the biggest bit, the bit you see.
The obvious bit.
The
really GNOME-y bit of GNOME.
the in-your-face GNOME bit, yes. So what does that mean for GNOME?
Well, I mean, they're working on GNOME 3 as well, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. GNOME Shell.
Who knows what they're doing in GNOME 3?
Well, we do.
That's the joy of open source.
Yes, because, we can see GNOME Shell. And that's the thing. Some people don't like the look of GNOME Shell and don't like the way it works.
Can you explain the difference between GNOME Shell and GNOME as we know it now, or GNOME Shell and Unity?
No, I don't think I could articulate that very well. But as far as I understand it, GNOME 2.x is the GNOME that you've come to know. Yeah. GNOME 3 is the look and feel that's slightly different. It's a bit like Unity in that you have large full screen apps taking up the whole space, but you also have ways to switch between apps, which is quite nice actually. I've seen demos of it. I've not tried it myself. But
So could it be that is what we end up with?
What, GNOME Shell?
If it's a bit like Unity already.
Well, not if we believe what we've been told today.
Because the whole point is that Mark or Canonical don't believe that GNOME Shell is the way forward for us, for our users.
Unless GNOME Shell then changed their direction.
I think they'd have to change fairly significantly, and I doubt they would want to. I've seen some of the comments from people on the Ubuntu, the GNOME Foundation, seem quite reluctant to go in that direction.
Shock.
Yeah, fancy that.
Well, it'll certainly be something I'll be watching with interest through the next development cycle.
Yeah.
And I look forward to giving it a go. Maybe I'll have to download the latest Netbook edition and try it out. And if you're listening and you've got any ideas, any thoughts and feedback about using Unity on a big screen, perhaps you've tried it and found it great or found it wanting in some areas, why not send us an email to podcast@ubuntu-uk.org and let us know what you think.
I think I'll stick to KDE.
It's time for the bit about Ubuntu.
Hey!
If we stop calling it Gerald then.
Don't you start.
I got Gerald in by proxy.
Hold on.
Hi over there, Chuckle Brother.
Well done.
Morton Bricks Pedersen has created a URL shortener for Launchpad.
Yeah, it's called pad.lv. It's unofficial, I think, but it allows you to give short references to bugs and blueprints and things, isn't it?
Yeah. I can't help thinking they should have got something like lp.net.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, or lp.something, just to make it a bit more, because pad.lv...
Memorable.
When I saw the URL, I had no idea what it was until I went and looked at it.
And if it was LP or something, I don't know.
Makes about as much
I'm just being
sense
picky.
as ISGJ and Bitly and
Mm-hmm.
some of the other ones. They're fairly nonsensical, aren't they?
Yep.
Bradley Kuhn blogs his interpretation of Mark Shuttleworth's responses when discussing OpenCore.
Yeah, he interpreted something that Mark had said in an interview or an IRC.
It was an Ask
conversation,
Mark
wasn't it?
session during the Open Week. So various people were asking questions, and the questions and some of the answers were posted on OMG in the style of an interview.
Yes, they
I
sort of
think that's
transcribed
what
them.
Bradley
didn't
picked up on. Yeah.
they? And he interpreted it as Mark confirming that they're basically going to use
I think he said admitting, in fact.
admitting. Yeah.
Though he did later say that he didn't actually admit it, but he didn't think he was going to change the title.
Well, should we explain what he allegedly might have admitted?
No, I think we should talk around it a bit more.
That there will be open core products in Ubuntu, and that Canonical asks for copyright assignment on patches so that they can release potentially proprietary licensed versions of some of their products.
What's
in the future.
OpenCore?
The idea is of an open source product that has an open source, say, core, and there's a free version, a community version. MySQL is a great example of this. It has a community version that's free and open source and GPLE or whatever. But because one company holds the copyright, they can also relicense it under commercial terms and charge money for it and things like that. But they can only do that because they hold all the copyrights for all of the patches that are submitted. So as an independent developer, you have to sign over your rights for your patch to be it Sun or whoever, in this case Canonical. And lots of people don't like that because they don't think it's true to the open source philosophy. And
It's worth a read, and there's a
Yeah.
lengthy discussion, albeit not particularly easy to read because it's on Identica,
Yeah.
so it's 140 characters of people, moaning, both back and forth. It's not, it's Bradley should put a comment system on his website rather than rely on Identica because it's just broken. I think.
yeah, you certainly can't use very long sentence structures and try to explain
Fancy
yourself.
that? No.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Zimmerman has made an interesting blog post about the relationship between Ubuntu and Qt.
Cute.
Or Qt, yes. The graphical toolkit, is that the right?
Yeah,
Yeah, graphical
like
toolkit.
GTK.
Like GTK.
This is where we throw to Mark, who knows a bit about KDE.
Yes.
Cute.
Well, it's the graphical toolkit that KDE uses, isn't
Yes, basically it's like GTK but a bit different. I don't program in it, so I can't say
Right.
for sure
One of the things that
what's different exactly. Signals and slots, I know about that.
right, okay.
I knew there was a reason we had him on.
Yeah. One of the things that Matt points out is that you can actually now make Qt apps look very much like native GNOME and GTK applications under, say, the default GNOME desktop on Ubuntu. So it isn't the barrier anymore that it used to be, in that if you had a Qt app and a GTK app side by side, they didn't integrate, they didn't look very well, and you couldn't copy and paste between them sometimes very easily and stuff. And also, some KDE apps the Qt apps were tiled with the KDE brush because there's had to load so much. Well, because if you're running a KDE app under a GNOME environment, it has to load all the KDE libraries in the background, but that isn't inherently related to Qt.
No.
And so what Matt's saying is actually, you can go out and develop a nice-looking Qt app that will integrate nicely with your Ubuntu desktop, running GNOME, and without having to load all the KDE libraries in the world behind it.
And also Qt's very cross-platform as well, because it's running on, well, you can run on Windows, Linux, Mac, mobile phones, all sorts of things.
Is Memo now Qt
I
based?
believe it is, or Migo.
Yeah, sorry, Migo.
I believe it is, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because Nokia brought Trolltech, didn't they? The
Yeah.
company that made Qt,
So they now
as I must now call
own
it.
We're going to have to edit out every reference Tony says to
Yeah.
Qt and put cute.
Or just run it
cute.
together really fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Daniel Holback has announced that Harvest is back online again, and newly written or rewritten in Django or Django or Dango or whatever we're calling it this week.
Now, Harvest is what used to be the paper cuts, isn't it?
No.
No.
No, it's not.
No.
Ah.
Okay, then.
Paper cuts is
Pointless
little
cuts.
little problems that occur that you spot that could be
Yeah.
fixed probably fairly easily.
Yeah.
Harvest is more finding bugs in bugs that have already been reported.
Or
so paper cuts
opportunities.
is you found something and you want to find a bug against it,
Right.
and it could be fairly easy and trivial to fix. Whereas Harvest finds bugs that already exist, and you can go through and find them as opportunities to do a little piece of work on Ubuntu. But whether you're a developer or not, whether you're just going to triage the bugs, a bit like the 5 a day thing, where you go
yeah.
through 5 different bugs and in a day
Not fruit and veg.
deal with them in some way, whether that's triage or mark them as a duplicate of something or actually, fix them, whatever it might be. But Harvest is a good way to enable you to find them, because that's one of the problems. You can stare at Launchpad and then, how do I go and find bugs that actually I might be able to contribute with? And that's the idea behind Harvest, is a way to get people to the bugs that need the help.
Yeah, the little bit of blurb on the website says Harvest makes it easy to find low-hanging opportunities in Ubuntu, which I'm not sure whether it quite describes what it's trying to do exactly.
It's a way to kill an analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So look at all these opportunities.
I think that might be a translation error.
Yeah, maybe.
And the second item in the Ubuntu Software Centre is a game called Brooken.
Second paid thing.
Second
Yes.
paid thing, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
For $7.
And I hear Vendetta Online is coming as well, which is another payware game.
So, of the things that are in there or coming in there are games mainly.
Seems that's certainly what it was envisaged might be, what it might be chock full of, because games are often non-free.
Yeah, and quite
For
time
whatever
sensitive and stuff as well. Yeah.
But why would you pay $7 for a game?
What? Hey? Well, what else would you do?
Well, I've just
Give
spent
it
the
to
last 3 days playing Angry Birds.
How
And
much
that
was
was
that?
free.
Yeah, that's the free version.
No,
Paid
no,
version
no.
is 59p. Oh, okay. On Android, it's now free.
Right.
But there's it
That's just
was
my point.
59p.
You can get great stuff for free. Why pay $7?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Challenge.
Meh.
Bit of change.
I think the thing with the iPhone and Android is there's so many of them
Yeah.
that 59p amounts to an awful lot of money when you add it all up. Whereas Ubuntu Software Center, number of eyeballs in front of that, number of people clicking and buying apps, and also some of the games are very specialist. Like, I'm not sure I would necessarily play this Logic game. Someone else, who likes Logic games might, but equally something like Vendetta Online I might play. Whereas something like Angry Birds is something that pretty much anyone from the age of 2 upwards could play.
Yeah.
Really?
And does,
Have you
apparently.
tried? It's nails.
And if they brought out something like maybe crossover games through Ubuntu Software Center, you might be
Yeah.
dragging in some Windows gamers,
Yeah.
some of the less skeptical ones.
Yeah. Greg Auger has filed a bug on Launchpad that suggests Canonical should basically sue Apple, or at least go after them with some legal writs and stuff. Following Apple's announcement that they have a product called Launchpad in the new version of OS X, which is due out, well, now, pretty much.
No, summer 2010.
Oh, right.
Sorry, 2011.
2011, okay. Which is the one that's got a lion, isn't it? It's
Yes.
codenamed Loopy Lion or something like that.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And Launchpad, of course, is a trademark of Canonical. Obviously, Canonical's bug tracking website, Launchpad.
I've also seen people report that Bloomberg have a trademark on Launchpad as well.
Okay.
Is it Bloomberg or one of the other, one of the big broadcast networks in America may have a trademark on Launchpad as well?
Well, Apple's Launchpad is an application launching,
I think-
full screen application launching.
It's basically
thing, isn't
like
it?
Unity
Oh, right, okay.
for Ubuntu. It's a full screen launcher. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Popey shows
Popey
Tony-
shows a screenshot.
Screenshot.
Yes.
If you go to
I did my research. I know what it looks like.
if you go to Mac's website, it's got a thing on their Lion what's new in Lion page.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, is Launchpad just the name of the website, or is it the actual software that runs the website?
Both, probably, isn't it?
It's not a website. It's a local thing. It's a local app.
No, sorry,
No,
I mean Canonical's Launchpad.
Oh, I see.
Do they just use that for the site Launchpad, or is the software that runs that site called Launchpad?
Yeah, the project is called Launchpad as
Yeah.
well. So if you want to find
Right.
a bug on Launchpad, you go to Launchpad.
So it is a piece of software called Launchpad.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in both cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Oh, well.
Apple's not created a bug tracking tool.
No, but it's created a piece of software, and if there's a trademark covering a piece of software,
I am not a lawyer. But luckily,
I studied a little bit of computer law. That's about it.
Canonical's lawyer
Makes you
is
the
on the
expert.
case.
Oh yeah, Canonical's lawyer is a lawyer, and they know about it.
Yes.
An actual lawyer.
And that didn't stop the conversation.
But the bug has been marked as invalid.
Yes.
Yes.
because it's not a bug.
Hence more
It's
discussion.
not really a bug, is it?
It is.
Somebody threatens to leave Ubuntu.
No, really?
Yeah. I mean, the shock of it.
That should be the mark of the bug, where that actually happens within the bug.
Yeah, it's like the what's his name? Godwin's Law.
Yeah.
Shuttleworth's Law.
Like it.
I think the most valid comment anybody said was that it's a canonical problem, not an Ubuntu problem.
Yep.
Yeah. And now time for your feedback.
Greg Thompson emailed in to say,
You discussed geekiness in your last show, one listener commenting that too much geekiness was not good. I have to disagree. Quite frankly, a podcast about an operating system, especially one about a Linux operating system, doesn't get much geekier. With three exclamation marks at the end.
yeah. If only there were Unicode exclamation marks or something, it could probably
Smiley
make it more
faces,
geeky.
scissors.
Well, it's funny because when do you remember when we were chatting to Leo Laporte on Net at Night?
Yeah.
And he asked
Just
us...
drop that in.
Well, you know,
As you do.
old
Did you?
pals. And he asked us how, we could do something that is so niche, or niche, as they
Yes.
say. And they're right. There's techie podcasts, and then there's podcasts about an operating system.
Yeah.
We're kind of pushing it a bit.
It's quite nichey.
Yeah.
There are more niches we could go into, I'm sure. There are plenty more niche things to talk about than one of the most popular operating systems within a field.
So if we just talked about like the toolbar or something,
Yes.
we had a podcast all about the notification area or something.
The About
I mean,
window.
the system tray.
Welcome to episode 104 of the About Window podcast. Today we're going to be looking at the credits section. In the last episode, we asked you what you loved and loathed about Maverick, and Zach had this to say.
I've installed Ubuntu 10.10 on my Dell Latitude 2100 netbook, and everything worked out of the box, and it's running perfectly. The Ubuntu font looks great, and I have it as the default in OpenOffice. Ubuntu One is improved, and I find it very useful. The Ubuntu One indicator should be installed by default, though. The option to install the codecs at install made life so much easier. Well done to all. I would like to see more work done on the Software Center to make it the center for all software. And to make... So I'm just thinking, isn't it? And to make both paid and free software available through it. Software availability and installation is one of the keys to greater Linux adoption on the desktop for the non-techie populace.
I guess there's some stuff that doesn't show up in Software Center, like, I'm trying to interpret what he means, like stuff that's in external PPAs, Launchpad PPAs. So maybe if there was a search within there, so you could say, search for Tomboy, and it says, well, you've already got Tomboy installed, but in this PPA, there's a newer version, and then you just press a button and it adds it, and that would be nice.
Or something that spiders the web for Debs and then lists those as well.
Ooh.
Spend hours
And
scrolling
rates
through
them on compatibility with your version of Ubuntu.
Or just doesn't show them if they're not.
Mate, we should get a job.
But overall, it seems to be a successful release for Zach, then. The Ubuntu One indicator that he mentioned, that is installed, isn't it?
No, someone's written a new one for the panel. Yeah.
Oh, that sits there and tells you what the sync status is.
Yeah, it's really quite nice, actually. It tells you like up and down speed, like the Dropbox one,
Right.
basically. The thing, yes.
But it's another thing in the notification area that we're not supposed to have.
Yes.
Fair enough.
And Grant Murphy said,
10 out of 10 for this one. Shotwell, nice. My wife, who uses Windows, said, that's pretty. Ubuntu One contact sync springs to life. Fantastic. Upgrade from 10.04, seamless.
Well, thanks for that, Grant. And he's written it in very bullet points.
Yes.
Excellent,
Which
yes.
is nice.
Nice.
Smart's delivery.
Nice. Nice.
PG.
But another positive review. Good stuff.
Yeah.
When can I do my negative one? Later.
Yeah, save it for the outro.
CS Geek left a comment on the blog to let us know that Ubuntu isn't the first distro to start installing packages before you've answered all the questions in the installer.
The feature was around years ago on Caldera before they turned evil, and I haven't seen it since. I'm glad someone else has started doing that again.
Didn't Caldera have a thing where you could play Pac-Man while it's installing?
They did.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. We should get that back. Who's Caldera?
Oh, so
Before
young.
you were born.
Oh.
Back in the days when you had to install Linux from floppy disks.
Who's Red Hat? Who are they again?
Red who? We had this promo from Ken Fallon for Hacker Public Radio.
Hello world, this is Slick Zero, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Hacker Public Radio. You've listened to it enough, I'm sure, you'll love the shows, but what makes it different from other podcasts? It's produced by the community. That's right, people just like you. There's no restrictions on how long the show could be, nor on the topic it could cover, as long as they are of interest to hackers. It's so easy to contribute to. Just go to hackerpublicradio.org and click on Contribute. All the information you need is right there.
Thanks for that, Ken, and I hope you get some good submissions.
Andy Stanford Clark emailed in looking for help with buttons following his upgrade from Karmic to Lucid.
At first, the window buttons were over on the right-hand side. However, when I moved to the custom theme, which had been set up during the upgrade, and moved to actually any of the supplied themes, the buttons hopped over to the right-hand side and have stayed there ever since. The little preview icons in the themes even have the buttons on the right. What happened? Perhaps I should whisper it, but I'd quite like to try the buttons on the left. Why do all the themes that are available to me have the buttons on the right? I'm sure there's a complicated XML config file I could hack to put them on the left, but why isn't this a nice and usable via the UI? I thought it was.
Yes.
Mine are on the left.
Mine are on the left.
No,
Mine are on the left.
but there's a yeah. I think it depends what theme you're on when you do the upgrade as to
Okay.
where they land up after you've upgraded. If you had stock standard default install and you upgraded, they will flip from the right to the left. But if
Yes.
you had an install and you tweaked the theme and then you upgraded, I have a feeling they stay where they are.
Oh,
So he's right.
Interesting.
You do need a
Yeah,
way
but he
to
wants to know a
flip
way
them
to
from the GUI.
G-conf editor.
Or how about
Yeah,
put them
G-conf.
at the bottom?
Is the,
G-conf editor.
is the background entirely separate from the theme?
No.
Because he had a green grass theme, he said.
Right. So and the
Background.
the buttons are part. Well, he may have set the background in the theme, or he
Yeah.
may have done the background separately. It's difficult to know.
yeah.
Mine worked.
However, there is a tool that can do this, and it's called Ubuntu Tweak.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of. I knew there was something. I couldn't remember what it was.
Yes, it has lots of other features, and it can do lots and lots of useful things like clean up old kernels and all that kind of stuff, and has lots of other options for tweaking various parts of your desktop. It's like the
Tweak
Tweak UI, yeah. thing that
Power
Windows has.
tools.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And the good news is, if you upgrade to Maverick, that they fixed the some of the icons, the preview theme buttons, so that the pictures reflect where the buttons are. So you can
the
actually,
previews of the themes
Yes,
in
in the appearance
GNOME
menu,
appearance
yes.
preferences dialogue thing.
Yeah, a lot more of
That's
those have
good.
seemed to be fixed in Maverick, so there's a reason to upgrade.
Yeah.
Mike Walker has this advice for Laura as she starts her PhD.
Laura might want to look at uberstudent.org for her postgraduate work. It's built on top of Debian and Ubuntu. Lots of pre-installed and pre-configured tools for higher-level student research like Zotero and Mendeley. I upgraded to Maverick under it, and it ran just fine before and after. It runs on my old AMD 2500 desktop and my Acer Aspire 1 D250 netbook without Unity. Not enough graphics power. More of that later.
Have you had a look at this? Do you know what this is?
I had a look at the website. I want to try running it as a live CD if that's possible. But I haven't actually tried it. But I use Mendeley.
Yeah.
So is it actually a distro?
It's a distro as far as I can tell.
Oh, right.
And it comes preloaded with all studenty type software
Cool.
that might be useful. Yeah,
Ooh.
it looked pretty cool from the website, but yeah, I didn't get a chance to try it. But I would like to, I think.
Neat.
Finally, James Tate sent us a photo for our Ubuntu logo rip-off wall. Hardwick Primary School in Derby have used the same colour scheme as the old Ubuntu logo, with the transposed people and hands, but have given it a Dali-esque swirl. There's a picture in the show notes.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, shocking.
It's
Another
quite
one.
good. I like it.
Add
Yeah.
that to the wall of shame.
Yes. We should have a page, Wall
Yeah.
of Shame,
Yes.
with all the logos on.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
If you
to
see
prove
one,
the point.
send it in.
Yeah, yeah. If you see anything that even looks vaguely like the Ubuntu logo,
Anything
we
with
want
people in
to
a circle.
see. Yeah. Well, yeah.
If you see some people standing in a circle,
Take a photo.
send
of
it
them.
in.
Then we can sue them or something. And that's all
Or
of
we
your
can
find
we'll
the
find
bug.
the bug. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all of your feedback.
Thank you for listening, and you can get in touch with us on our website at podcast.ubuntu-uk.org, including there our voicemail numbers and Twitter feeds, Facebook, IRC channels. Let us know what you think about the show, or give us your thoughts on Ubuntu and the community around it.
Thanks very much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.